Hey there, it's Tommy Toole, and I gotta be honest with you. I think I've started and stopped recording this probably 6 or 7 times already, and I just can't get through the first couple slides. Either my throat is dry, I get interrupted, I stumble over my words. So hopefully I can get through this now. And this one, we're talking about protect, protect, protect. We're in Module 2, Lesson 3. We're talking about protecting your assets. So, this is kind of a common sense chapter. And I got to tell you, my dad has told me, he says, Tommy, you're very book smart, but you don't have a whole lot of common sense. At least that's what I used to hear when I was growing up. I think over the years I've gained the common sense. So I kind of want to help you with this because a lot of times when you're going through a divorce, you check those brain cells, those common sense brain cells out the front door. And you need somebody to kind of remind you and slap you with some water and say, hey, don't forget this, don't forget that. And these are kind of good tips that you might go, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Or maybe you already had. So, and that brings me to another point. I love your feedback. So if you jump on over into the WT the Live Well Divorce, sorry, I had that wrong. Live Well Divorce LTD community over in our Facebook group. I would love it if you drop me a line and let me know, hey, this chapter didn't quite work for me, or this one did, and or here's how you can improve it, or whatever. I love that kind of feedback because this is your program for life. And I always can go back in and update it, add more things, and I intend to do so. So love your feedback. All right, so moving on. Here's what we're going to discover: how to protect your assets, and what to do if you are the one who has the file folders, or maybe you have a file cabinet of all your important documents in your possession. Maybe you didn't have to leave the home, and so I have some tips for you. And then I also have some tips for if you were the one who doesn't have the files in your possession. Maybe you had to leave and you had to leave all those documents behind. All right, so again, the big picture is tips for protecting your assets and how to stay organized. All right, so this is a really cute cartoon that I think is very appropriate. She says, hey, there's two fish in a fish bowl, and she says, hey, I'm leaving you, Gilbert. You can keep the bowl, but I'm taking the water and the colored stones. So that's so funny because he's going to die without the water. Poor little guy. All right, so what kind of assets am I talking about? In divorce, everything is an asset, or so it feels that way. Pulse check, it's not. Everything isn't really an asset. We think so. I mean, we want to split everything in half. And when I say everything, I mean everything. But I'm not talking about the furniture or the dishes or the tools or the dog, okay? I'm talking about your money. Let the other stuff go. Yes, even the dog if you have to. So I have a quick story. I had a dog, and he was a German Shepherd, Buster, and this is a Buster look-alike because I don't have pictures of my doggy back then. But I had Buster before the kids were born. But Buster was a pretty needy dog. And the thing about German Shepherds are that they're really people-oriented dogs and require a lot of attention. And if you don't give it to them, they really let you know. So it's no exaggeration to say that I was overwhelmed with taking care of the kids and the house, let alone a dog that I didn't have time for. I felt horrible. Really, it was really heartbreaking, but I had to make that tough call. And I had to give Buster away for my own sanity. And let me just tell you, my life improved. It really did improve considerably overnight after I did that. I mean, I hate to admit it, but it was one less worry on my mind, and I knew that he went to a good home. The hard part was really in explaining it to the kids, but they were really little at the time and took the news, as good as kids can take it. And so after time, it just became the norm not to have the dog. But it was kind of sad. But it was really important that I had to do that for my own sanity and for the peace and calm around the house. So my guess is I guess my point is to you is what I'm trying to say is that you need to take care of yourself and you can't feel guilty about this kind of stuff. I mean, you really can't. You've got to let it go, especially if everything is put on you. If you're the one, like I showed you earlier, like the kid holding the bag of, and you just don't want to be that one. And if you are, and oftentimes we are, you've got to make these hard decisions, even if it means getting rid of the family pet. Then that's what you have to do. So, of course, I digress. So, when I talk about protecting your assets, okay, getting back to that. I mean, your brain is an asset, right? Your peace of mind, your calm. But when I'm talking about getting back to your appreciable assets, things that you've saved for, like, for example, your retirement, your pension, life insurance, mutual funds, college funds for the kids, annuity, stocks, taxes, the deed to your house, title papers to your car, and other properties like that can be cashed out or sold from under your nose. Those are the things we're talking about here. So how exactly do you protect this stuff when it's all intangible and you can't really hide it or hoard it somewhere? I'm talking about being smart. Here's how. Okay, so how to protect your assets. So if you are the one with a file cabinet, you are golden. But you still need to be proactive in case you come home one day and all your important papers are missing. So I suggest that you ask a friend, this is your common sense conscience speaking, ask a friend or family member to hold on to your important documents during this time of asset division. Actually, you'll want to do this immediately, really. Exes, they've been known to retrieve this stuff when you are not home. So don't leave it lying around, especially not in all the obvious places. And if you don't want to leave this stuff with a friend or family member, then get a safe today. And there's nothing wrong with sharing this stuff with the ex. I mean, really, they're going to need it, and so are you. But you don't want to be without it. You want to be, if you have it, take advantage of that, copy everything, and then put it in a safe place. Then, as a double measure, scan copies of all the hard copies and file them away on your computer. I mean, do it, really. Think about it, and you'll thank me later. So you can see what I'm talking about here. File cabinet, scan it, put it on a USB flash drive or in your computer, something like that. Okay, so what if you are the one who left, and when you did, you didn't think to grab all the important documents? You didn't exactly head out the front door and say, oh, hey, screw you. And by the way, I need my tax return and this year's business receipts. Okay, that wasn't really on top of your mind, right? So what then, Tommy? So if you were the spouse with the grouse, like that, I just made it up. And maybe you were the one that left and now you don't have any of your papers, then here's what I suggest. Get on the phone and start making some calls. Call your CPA for copies of your W-2s and taxes. Have your CPA send them to you electronically. This is what you pay them for. Or go online and create an account with the IRS or your state income tax agencies, because most state agencies are joining the self-service bandwagon finally. And then get in the habit of asking for your final copy of your taxes and your W-2s to be emailed to you every year if you have a CPA, or do it yourself after the CPA gives them to you. It's easier to have your CPA do it because they do it all electronically anyway. Then create a folder on your PC or get a flash drive again, as I mentioned, and file them away. And do this for all important documents. It's a really good habit to get into, and from this point on, if you haven't already done that, then get started on it. Do this for your utility bills in case you have to provide proof of residency for your kids' schools. Okay, so maybe you moved out of the area, but you still want the kids to go to the school that their other spouse lives in, and maybe you're the one that has to get this, you're the responsible one that has to get this organized. So do that. This will come in handy, like I said, if you moved out of the area but still want the kids to attend their old schools. All right. Okay, so moving on. once you file your divorce papers with the court, there's this thing, it's called an automatic motion to stay, and it's put in place regarding your assets. So just by the simple act of filing for the divorce, it puts this temporary hold on your assets. It kind of freezes all your assets until you have the court hearing where the judge can decide on the division of assets and who gets what. But what does this mean? All right. So the motion of stay means that neither one of you can cash out any life insurance policies or sell assets during this time. But let me just tell you, that doesn't stop some people. Okay? So my ex, he cashed out his life insurance policy, the one that I had been paying for with automatic deductions from my own paycheck. Yeah. So couple $100 every month coming out of my check. He just cashed out one day, and it was a total of, I think it was like $8,000, which, to me that was a lot of money back then, and it still is. That's a lot of money. Excuse me. And he just kind of pissed it away, really, and it was all kind of in just getting set up in his new place. But here's the kicker. When I mentioned this to the judge, he asked my ex if it was true. I mean, I told the judge, hey, he cashed out $8,000 of mine from a life insurance policy, and he wasn't supposed to. I mean, we have this motion of stay? And the judge kind of looked over at my ex, and my ex just kind of shook his head, like, the judge asked him, well, did you? And my ex kind of shook his head, and then his attorney did something pretty clever. She distracted the judge with some other topic. So the judge got off topic there, and he got off scot-free with my $8,000. So there it went. Goodbye, money. And, I was too nervous, and I didn't speak up and didn't realize that I could. And I didn't really want to press the issue because I was afraid sort of what might happen to him. I mean, I was thinking, oh, gosh, he's going to go to jail. I mean, that's the first time in court, so I was naive. I didn't know. It's dumb, huh? So protect your stuff because in a blink it can be gone to the whims of your irrational ex. So if you leave without any paperwork, either on file or hard copy, then know this. You're pretty much screwed. Okay? Don't do it. Don't leave until you get things in order. Don't be this guy, right? Don't leave in a hurry or in a fit of rage. This goes double if you are fortunate to have a boatload of assets and own your own business, because then it really comes into play that you need to get your stuff in order. So, I mean, I don't mean to panic you. It's just sort of my virtual splash of water in your face, right? So, my suggestion to you is stay organized. So here's what I suggest. Make a list of all your assets. List out your account numbers and passwords. I know it's a pain in the butt, but take, scan, and copy or email yourself important documents, loans, pink slips to your vehicle, retirement accounts, all those things I mentioned earlier. And the other thing you can do is make sure your name is on everything from the heating bill to any of your loans. Or in some cases, you might want to remove your name from some of these things, like maybe the gas card that your ex uses and you don't, right? But so let's see, what was I going to say? So yeah, just if you can, do this stuff before you make your exit. I know that seems really, it almost is like premeditated, but you almost have to. I mean, you really shouldn't just leave in a fit. So this list that I'm giving you here is not complete by any means. So please do the work and spend the time to really get organized. And if it is too late and you find yourself without some of these important papers and the ex is refusing to help, which they often do, right? Let your girlfriend do it because I'm not your wife anymore. That was that was what I used to say. Then, don't stress. Everything is figure outable. That's my saying. I stole that from Marie Folio, so I just have to give her shout out. Everything is outable, and you will get what you need. You'll just have to ask for it and be patient. And then the one thing I want to remind you too is if you are a business owner and you have a business account, and hopefully you have a business credit card, because that will really make things simple. You can get most of your expense reports from your credit card statements online. And a lot of banks do that too. You can just go online and download your spending. I think it's under portfolios on some of them. So, you'll get what you need, but you might have to get it the hard way. But if you had spent some time in the early stages to stay organized and get on top of things before you left, or if the ex leaves, and to protect yourself from them, entering the house and getting the things when you're not there, pardon me, then these are the things and steps you want to take. So just remember, my only concern is this: when you don't have a list of all your own stuff readily handy. If you own a lot, you might forget a thing or two. So this is why I want you to make a list and stay organized. So try to have a good pulse on what you own and what you are paying for. Know what you own. I mean, a lot of people have so much stuff they don't even know what they own. I know this sounds like an obvious statement, but you'd be surprised. Lots of people who have wealth don't realize how much they really have. And they only have sort of like a mental inventory. So write it down, then if possible, pare down. So stay organized, and I'll see you in the next video.